IVM.
Hey, welcome to episode 98 of Shunya 1. We are counting it down once again, and of course, just one more episode to go. Before that, we're bringing you another super recording today with another very cool Bombay founder who has been at it for quite a while. We're going to be talking to Brijraj Vaghani today, who has been the founder of Traffline, rebranded to Ridlr, and then exited his company when it was acquired by Ola, nonetheless. And we're going to hear about that story and a few things about the tech that he's built. Amit's not here today, actually. Amit's not going to be joining me in the studio for, I think, this and episode 99, so he's going to be missing for that. I guess I have to cap out all the last season 1 episodes myself. But it's going to be fun. I'm going to jump into the episode we did with Brijraj right here. All right, I'm here with Brijraj Vaghani, the founder of Ridlr, Traffline, and of course now part of the Ola group as well. Brijraj, welcome to the show. Thanks for beating the traffic of Mumbai to make it here.
Thanks for having me here.
And I think it's a part of your life, I think, for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a part of my life. And today, it's actually a coincidence that today is the first day of monsoon. And today is when we would see peak traffic on Traffline and Ridlr, right? Today is when we see peak activity on Traffline and Ridlr. So it's a good coincidence that we have that today. Awesome. A lot of my friends have been here, so it's a privilege for me to be here as well, right? And I've heard them here as well.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. And of course, if you've heard the show, then you know, I would love to, give our listeners a little background about you and your story, to set the context of what you've been doing, what you built over the years. I can jump in with the fact that I think first interacted with you way back sometime on Twitter. Of course, I used to follow all the updates from Traffline.
Yes.
I think everyone in Mumbai became very vocal about, where traffic is and what's happening in the city, especially around monsoons, I think.
Yep.
And your platform, of course, was one of the, key sources of information to spread that around.
Yes.
How has that journey been? And could you give us a little background on how that came to be?
Yeah, it's been a great journey, right? And it's evolving with every passing day. Like many entrepreneurs that I know of, start with a particular vision and, okay, this is what they want to do. For me, it was a step-by-step process. I had just come back from the US, and traveling in Bombay was painful, right? I don't like being late. Ironic because today I was a little late. But yeah, I don't like being late to meetings, and I don't appreciate when people are. And I came back to India, I saw that people would use traffic as an excuse. मैं 10 साढ़े 10 को आता हूँ. First half is second half में आता हूँ. First half is a big 4 hours, second half is 4 hours. मैं कितना wait करूँ तेले? I have seen my family members like blatantly lying on the phone, right? मतलब there's no traffic on the road. I'm late because it's traffic, right? And then how do you get there? मतलब कैसे पता चले? So and when I was in the US, obviously I used systems which would give me information. I used to travel a lot. I used to play cricket on weekends, so I used to use the information and actually make it on time. So I thought, why don't there be a system in India which could at least give me information about which road I take, when I take. If you remember as a kid, you would have had these incidents, right? You were driving, your parents would be behind. You would take one road, automatically mom would say, okay, take the other road.
Yeah.
They would not know. They would just guess that the other road is fine, right? So then there should be a solution to this problem. And I thought that being an engineer, I thought this is a cool problem to solve. I sit in one place in Mumbai and I can know what is happening in every part of Bombay. That would be pretty cool to have. And that's how I started it. Didn't think what the business model would be. Didn't think how I would go about monetizing it. But that's how I started. And it's obviously grown a lot from there. And today we are at a stage where we are going to be redefining mobility for 1 billion people, right, in the world. So it's been a great journey. I would not do anything else, rather do anything else, right?
Wow. Tell us about the early days of the product. I mean, you're talking about which year?
So I started this so I came back from the US in 2009. And I was dabbling with a lot of ideas, be it healthcare, be it services, be it one of it was traffic, and Traffline was what I narrowed down in 2012. So 2012 was when I quit my job and I started Traffline full time, right? And I had some early success where I started interacting with cab. So my tryst with cab companies also started back then. Mm-hmm. So it's a classic Indian problem. You want to give information, but there's no infrastructure to collect the information. So how do you give information about traffic? Google Maps didn't have traffic information at that time. So what I did was that went and approached a lot of cab companies. Radio taxi was just starting around that time. So we had Merus and Easys. Remember those guys?
Yeah.
Meru cabs, Easy cabs, Mega cabs, all those guys. And they were radio taxis which had GPS fitted in them. And I went to them and said that, why don't you share your GPS data with me? I'll give you something in return. I didn't have money. I can either build a mobile app for you. I can give you data back, process data back, which you could use for your dispatch and your optimizations, etc. That clicked, right? A couple of cab companies started working with me, and there was sort of a network effect which kicked in. So I took data from one, processed it, gave it to the other one, second one, third one, right? And within a year and a half, we got to a point where we were processing around 10 million data points in Bombay, right? In India. And that was phenomenal. So we could give traffic information in 20 cities. And then the social piece of it, which you refer to the Twitter handle, that was also not planned. It was a coincidence. So on the day when Shri Balasaheb Thackeray passed away, there was a lot of panic around the city that there'll be riots, shops will be shut down, and people trying to rush home.
Right.
And I had nothing to do, right? All businesses had closed. I was just trying to give information to people that don't panic. And I was trying to take information from one person, retweeting it and giving to the other person, taking it from the third person, giving it to the first two people. Just trying to be a mediator for information and giving it to everyone. And all of it, if I realized, within half an hour, we had 500 followers.
Nice.
And then a few days after that, it was the first day of monsoons. So then that kept on going. And before we knew, we reached 1 million followers, right? So we knew that crowdsourcing traffic. So I had this theory before that Indians were not big contributors to open source or not content generators. We are content consumers.
Yeah.
But that thing, I was proven wrong on that day, and I continue to be proven wrong. And that was something. So we got all this data from cab companies, logistics companies. We got this data from users. We meshed that together, and that's how Traffline was born, right? And Traffline was a really great product. It did really well in the first few days, right?
Yeah. In fact, it scaled on the back of all of this data, but it became a voice for of course, like people also started sharing to Traffline so that it got amplified, right? How did, again, that product go to what maybe we saw over the years become what Ridlr was? Like, when did you actually think of monetization as this was growing?
So Traffline was one of the first few products which got to 1 lakh daily active users in India, right? It was one of the early products in India. The problem we had, or the limitation we had, is obviously it was a small market. If you remember, this caters to car owners in urban cities, right? That's 8-10 million market, right? It's not bigger than that. And the other is, how do you monetize that? One of the big bets I was taking on monetization is that connected cars would eventually come. But I'm glad I didn't wait for that, because even today we don't have them, right? We have cars based on 4G and 3G, but they're not as reliable, right? So if you look at how they do it in the West or in Singapore, they rely on the FM frequency band to do that. But we don't have that band available for sending information to the cars. So connected cars never picked it up, so we could not figure out a way to monetize. With Google coming in, information was available for free. We had a premium app, so we had to downscale it and make it a free app. So we could not figure out a big way of monetizing it, right? And also my perspective changed when we were giving information. So one of the things that I would do when Traffline started, would look at all these messages would come out. As you said, people would tag this at the trade Traffline handle. Yeah. And the evolution of it took it to a place where it was not only confined to traffic, right? People were asking about trains. On the days when trains were late, people were asking what is happening at Dombivli station. Are trains on time? Which bus should I take, right? And then when you look at simple maths, right? India is a mass transit market, right? You come from the US, so you have a view of, okay, you do everything for cars and automobiles. But if you look at the market, which is a big one, then you have to go after mass transit. If you want to really solve mobility in India, it has to work with mass transit, right? So that's when it made the transition from Traffline to Ridlr, where traffic, we were not just confined to giving traffic information, but all mobility information, right? So we then started working with the railways, the buses, the metros of the world, giving information from people. So you know how many agencies are there in Mumbai? So if you want to go from here to maybe Panvel, which is not a very unusual route, you will be touching 6 or 7 different agencies, right? You will do a BST, you will do a Western Railway, you will do a Central Railway. Do 2 different agencies, by the way. You might do a metro, then there's a Navi Mumbai bus.
Yeah, NMMT,
right? And then you go beyond, there is Mira Bhayandar, there is Vasai Virar, lots of them, right? So how do you aggregate all this information and give it to users in one unified form? For a user, I just care about A to B, right? Yeah. So we started off with that, and that's how the journey to Ridlr. So that's what we get. That app saw a lot of users as well. And now the next question is, how do you monetize? So monetization was always important, or back of my mind, because information is not easy to monetize in India. We saw the initial success Paytm and Uber were having, or Ola was having with Ola Money. Then if cabs can be booked online, long distance buses can be booked on Redbus, flights can be booked. So every 5 years, new inventory is coming online. So it was time for us to bring the mass transit, which was the last frontier or the last mile, online, right? So that's what we started doing. The difference between what they were doing and what we were doing, we were always playing with unreserved inventory, right? If I show a ticket to you, that has no meaning, because there could be 10 versions of that ticket, right? So we had to do a lot of things differently from what was done in the past, but essentially the idea was to bring that inventory online, and we've been successfully doing that now in India.
So tell us, I mean, for folks who don't know, how does the app work for, like, let's say, in the Mumbai city? I know because you were here, I think you have almost every mass transit option available. Like, give us an example of what was the struggle for integration with systems like this? Because another point, again, personal to me, I remember at one point you were also trying to do parking spaces. And we had a discussion around RFID and a whole bunch of other things of trying to integrate stuff. And given that there are so many agencies, pulling data from all of them in a, easy manner, it's not a simple task. So how did you overcome all of those various systems talking to each other, especially if many of them didn't have any system, maybe?
All right. So I'll just start off with an example, right? So what is different about what we do? What is different about digitizing? Why didn't it happen before 2016, before Ridlr started? So if you book a airline ticket, right, you take a printout, and the printout has a seat number and a flight number.
Right.
So you have a unique identifier for you, right? You go and sit at that seat. If someone is forging your ticket or making a fake ticket, there'll be obviously a clash and you'll figure out what the problem is. Similarly, if you have a cab, right, a cab has a number and a OTP assigned to it, or the unique identification of it. You take a metro or a bus, there is no uniqueness, right? I take a bus number, ticket for bus number 66 from A to B. Now, at any point of time, there are 5 bus number 66 flying on A to B. I could have 10 versions of their printout. Now, how do you expect the conductor to verify which one of it is real or which one of it is not real? Similarly, in the metro, right? I could get in a metro. I could go from Warsaw to Ghatko. Today, you have those automatic fare collection gates. But if you had to show it to a human being, how would he know that this is being used, not used? This is Photoshop, not Photoshop, right? So, and the life cycle of a ticket is the life cycle of a journey. So at the end of the ticket, at the end of your journey, the ticket should be destroyed is fundamentally how it works, right? So that's where the hardware integration that we do makes sense. So what happens is you open your app, you say I want to buy a ticket. At that time, it's not really a call to a server or an online call or whatever it is. We do a local call with the handheld device that the conductor has. And the conductor handheld device gets that information. So the beauty of that is that only if the conductor is close to you, will you get that communication, okay, I want to buy a ticket. When the conductor comes to you, he checks on his device whether did you get a communication or not. If you did not get the communication, even if there is a Photoshop ticket on you, it will not be. The source of truth is the conductor device, which is the hardware, right? And no one can fudge with that. And no one can cheat with that, right? So that becomes so. So there is a lot of hardware integration involved in doing that. And the way we made it scalable across agencies is made sure that the workflow of the conductor does not change. So we designed our product in such a way that what he was. So today, typically a conductor would come, collect his device, punch in his credentials and go on the field and start issuing tickets. He was doing exactly the same thing with our system. When he was doing that, automatically our system was getting configured as well, right? Nice. So he didn't have to do anything different on it. From the user point of view, user would go sit in the bus, remove cash from his pocket. He would not do that. Now we take a mobile, which he typically does for WhatsApp video, and now press a button. And so we made it seamless, more from the conductor and for the user as well. That is how we ensured the scale, right? Similarly, in the metro, when we said we want to enable mobile ticketing, we didn't go and overhaul existing infrastructure, like how you see what is happening around TFL or what is happening in Sydney. And I think that's the advantage of being Indian, right? You don't have money, so you optimize or you innovate with the limit mean. So without changing the turnstiles, without overhauling the infrastructure, we put a small circuit inside which ensured that the duplicate QR codes were not used. People were not cheating. You won't imagine the type of fraud that we get in India, right? So you go from Warsaw to Ghatkopar, that's $40.
Yeah.
So what people would sometimes do, they would take a ticket from Warsaw to DN Nagar for $10.
Yeah.
And then from Jagriti Nagar to Ghatkopar for $10. So 20 rupees. Enter with the first ticket, exit with the second ticket.
Oh, man.
So at 20 tickets, they do that in Kochi, they do that. So you have to, the circuit would ensure that these type of frauds are not available. That's a lot. So this is what you have to account for. And when you start doing this, because you are in the business of managing revenue, and you build a system robust enough to not cause leakage of revenue, then the scale automatically comes, right? But initially there's a lot of hard work. Initially there's a lot of thought process and how do we go about it, understanding how they currently operate, and then basically build a solution where it keeps it seamless for everyone and the disruption is minimal, right? So that's how we get scale.
Right.
And that's how we did it.
Awesome.
On that note, I think we're going to take a quick break, come back and talk some more. Hello and welcome to a brand new and exciting week on IVM. We'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors, Storytel and Paytm Money. On the scene and the unseen, Amit Verma's guest is quizmaster and sports expert Joy Bhattacharya. Joy talks about his journey as a team director for the Kolkata Knight Riders, his role in the Under-17 FIFA World Cup, and the evolution of televised sports in India. On Advertising is Dead, Varun talks to founder and editor of Dead Ant, Ravina Raval. They talk about Dead Ant as a platform to discuss news and events around comedy. On Ganatantra, Alok and Sarayu are joined by Dr. Carol Sperry to talk about the role of women in electoral politics. On Simplified, Chuck and Nareen are joined by Director Insights of Brandscape Worldwide, Utsav Memoria, for part 2 of how to travel on a Desi budget. On Geek Fruit, Dinkar and Jishnu talk about the highly distinctive director, screenwriter and producer Edgar Wright. On IVM Likes, IVM staffers Abbas, that's me, Darius and Madhuri are discussing the highest IMDb rated series Chernobyl and also delve into the phenomena of grief watching. On the Habit Coach podcast, Ashton talks about the beliefs of bad and good habits and how a habit that is bad for someone can be good for someone else. On our Kannada podcast Thale Harate, Sri Ranjani speaks to Ganesh Chakravarti and Takshashila Institution's Soumya Nandan and her endeavour to revive the interest of ancient board games in India. On Equity Sahi Hai, Srinath Mithanthaya, Senior VP at Motilal Oswal AMC, talks to Anupam about value migration and how it's different from value creation. And with that, let's continue on with your show.
All right, welcome back. So you're tackling not just a mobile product, which is consumer facing, you're also building the B2B side of the mobile product. You're also building hardware. It's quite a big...
We are the plumbers, right? So we're plumbing so that a lot of things, you can build a lot of things on top of it,
right,
which is what we'll end up doing now. But essentially, the plumbing is where the difficult part is. The plumbing is reliable. Once the plumbing is reliable, you can build a lot of things on top of it, right? That's how we look at it.
That's awesome. And again, all of this, when you were building this digitization infrastructure through various bits and pieces, where did you see the story fit in for what Ola obviously is trying to do, right? Again, it's a different kind of product, different kind of scale. Where did the journeys actually come in and overlap?
So it was not an impulsive or deal-specific decision. As I was telling you, my tryst with cab companies have started ever since I started Traffline, right? Ola was one of the companies I was working with. I knew the management team, specifically Bhavish, for a while, where obviously I was also partnering with them. That why don't you take ETS from me, data from me? I would getting data from them. So there was a lot of touch points before that as well.
Right.
As we evolved in our journey, we realized that we are doing this plumbing work, which obviously has a longer gestation time, and also if I look at mobility as it's evolving, it's not just cars, buses and metros anymore. It's micro-mobility, it's bikes, it's shares, etc. There's a lot more, right? And I don't think mobility of any city can tell me this is the mobility option I'm going after and this is the solution for myself. It's not. It's going to be multimodal, mixed model, depending on your capacity, depending on the type of the city you want. For example, if you want a walking city, then you'll block the usage of cars. You want a city which has a lot of shared vehicles, then you'll put a lot more shared vehicles. So you want pollution-less city, then you'll put a lot more buses, right? So the future of every city is going to be multimodal. So Ridlr standalone could not solve the mobility problem by itself, right? As you said, my journey has evolved from just giving information to now improving mass transit, and now I think the future is to improve mobility as a whole. And I think no better partner for me than Ola to actually do that, right? They've done tremendous work in scaling to so many cities in the country, offering so many categories, be it cabs, bikes, outstation rentals and all that, right? We bring the mass transit angle into play, and together we can actually solve the mobility problems of the world. That was, at some point, it just seemed obvious for me to actually start working with them.
Awesome. And what's been it's been some time since this has formulated. So can you share a bit about...
Yeah, it's been close to a year. I think we finished 1 year in June 18, I think. But yeah, it's been great actually, right? I think the biggest insight for me is, or the biggest learning for me, what it takes to build a big company. So they were not much older than us in terms of when they started. They started, I think, a year before us. And I think they've traveled a lot beyond us. So how do they think? How do they go about the daily processes? How do they think about opportunities? What to keep doing, also importantly, what to not do, how to rationalize, how to deep dive, and going deep in data, understanding the value chain, right? So, and what it takes to actually build a big company is what I'm learning from them firsthand, right? So you can hear about it, you can hear about it you can read about it in books, articles, etc. But seeing it firsthand on a week-on-week basis, on a day-on-day basis, actually inspires you and also teaches you a lot more, right? So I've never had an experience of taking a company from ground to zero. Right. I've done a startup. I was a part of a startup. It bombed, right, when I was in the US. And before that, I was in Qualcomm, which was a big and established company. So I'm getting to see firsthand what it takes, the amount of discipline, rigor that you have to put to actually build a big company. And that's actually helping me in a business a big way. And then the ecosystem which Ola provided, the financial services, in the sense that the finance team, the legal team, etc., those all come in handy. A lot of people now want to partner with us because we have a strong backing, right? So you'll hear a lot a lot of things we're doing with a lot of bigger players in the country and in the world rather, but that is because we have the backing. Right? So those are the two things which have helped me, right, personally.
Right. Where is the journey for you going from here? I mean, what kind of products are you all building? Can you shed light on some new developments, or which are maybe just out already, or where you're mentioning that you're going global? Ola is, of course, already global. So
we started off with mobile ticketing. And if you see the work we're doing is we're going deeper. So we're reverse integrating, right? We're actually not only confining ourselves to mobile now. We're going deeper and providing a lot more services below that. So we started in BST today, which was one of our first partners, and even NMMT. We are not only providing mobile ticket, but we also power the system to do cash ticketing as well as closed loop card ticketing, right? In Navi Mumbai, what we are doing is you must have heard about the One Nation, One Card, National Common Mobility Card. We've enabled the system to actually start. So you can now pay via debit card on a conductor machine, right? So we are going deeper on the stack and building a lot of things on. If you're plumbing, then plumbing it all together. Right? In Mumbai Metro, it was recently announced in their annual day that they will be replacing plastic. So if you want to buy a single journey token or an individual ticket, they have that plastic coin. They're being replaced by paper QR tokens, paper QR.
Oh.
So basically, it's going to be 100% plastic free.
Okay.
Paper is reusable, etc. So it's environmental friendly. It's also cost effective. So that system is again part. So we are going much deeper in the stack, right? And as I said, going sooner, it's moving more towards a multimodal experience, right? Where from A to B, your payment, your payment, your information, all will be on one app, which will most likely be the Ola app, right? And everything is handled. So we are bringing the Ola experience to mass transit. So what is the problem with mass transit today? You take a bus, you have to go open a different app, wait for it. Then you have to go to the metro station. Those timetables are not synchronized. Then you take the metro ticket or whatever it is. You pay for that separately. You have a different pass for that. Then you again get off at a last mile, which is either an auto or something like that. So that's why people desert compare that Ola does for you. You book an app once and then you're done, right? Till your destination. We want to bring that kind of experience to mass transit. And that's what the integration will start happening for us as well.
Yeah. Since you mentioned auto, I have a question. Are you able to ever solve the problem of autos denying rides? Because I think that's a bigger problem to solve in Mumbai especially, or any city in India. Have you ever thought of that? Has anyone ever approached you? It's a joke, but you can answer.
So it was interesting. So in fact, some of the campaigns that we've done on Twitter and which were very popular is complain about an auto driver when he refuses a ride. That was a very viral campaign. And
I'm sure.
The number of people, even celebrities have tweeted. I think when did these celebrities start taking auto? But I think they were associated with the problem quite a lot as well. Yeah. And we reported some auto drivers to the police traffic, because we used to work very closely with traffic police, and there was some action taken on them. I think, as I said, right, the problem today is there's no equity, right? How many buses do you need? How many autos do you need? There are 2 lakh autos in Bombay. Why are they still refusing rides? Right? So there is no mathematical way or no scientific way of saying that this is the population, this is the demand, and this is what the supply should be. Transport is fundamentally a supply shaping and a demand problem. This is the demand, this is what your supply. If so many people want to pay so much price, then so many buses should be. There's no mathematical way so you'll always have discrepancy. Mm-hmm. And that's what a system like us should in the future solve for. Right? So you can't blame the auto guy because he has to earn that fix. No one doesn't want to do business, but he has that fixed hourly rate earnings that he has because he has to give his cab back, auto driver. So and today everything is based on manual discretion. There's no system to it. But if you set up a system and say that this is how it should be, then a lot of these problems will automatically be solved. And you have to do this across modes rather than confining to one mode or the second mode, right? So I think this will be the long term solution. There's no quick fix for this, but I think we'll solve this in the long way by putting a system in place for that.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Well, I mean, I have a bunch of questions around, of course, again, there's so much to do, right? You just mentioned there's so many layers to actually deep down and solve. Yeah. Do you want to do a shout out to folks who are similar to you in this industry, or new startups, entrepreneurs who are thinking of similar problems in this space? I mean, it's one of the biggest problems, especially again, urban folks face it again as India grows gets more mobile. Even tier 2-3 cities are facing this, right? So do you want to do a shout out to folks in this space, or also to folks you are looking for on your team?
Yeah. So we are growing and we're always looking to hire, right? There's a special need for people with good machine learning and vision experience. Now I'll tell you what my view for vision is, right? Computer vision has evolved a lot, and what we call in office today software 2, right? The software 2 is what we're using. And my view is that any problem, I was talking a lot about hardware in my earlier part of the podcast. Hardware comes with its own problems of maintenance, AMCs, etc., right? What vision does for you is, with commodity hardware, and good vision software, you can replace all the sensors in the world. Right? For example, if there's a sensor in the bus, which is for Wi-Fi communication or Bluetooth communication, replace that with a facial recognition camera and it can detect ticket for you. Similarly, at the metro, you have sensors infrared which detect a passenger has passed or not passed. You can replace that with a camera and reduce the cost of the turnsture. So we're investing heavily on vision technologies, but we're very new to it. So anyone on listening to me wants to work with me, wants to help me out on whatever we are building on the vision technology, we are more than happy to hear that. Besides that, we are hiring a lot of people on embedded systems. That's something we do a lot. A lot of quality people because, as you know, we play with people's money and we have to be very sure on what we deliver. We can't deliver anything wrong. And a bunch of other positions, right? So feel free to reach out to me. I'm available at brijrajv on Twitter or Ridlr Mumbai on Twitter as well.
Awesome. Is the Ridlr handle still doing what it used to do?
It does, and you will see a lot of activity from it. Yeah. It's not as verbose as what it used to be, so we've been also particular, and a lot of it is now automated, right? So we don't have to go out and seek information. Information comes to us, and we just disseminate the hymn. So the philosophy is not gone, but and you will see a lot more activity in the next few days with the rains around.
Of course. I think how big is the team today? And I think you are now split between Bombay and Bangalore, is it?
I spend a few days a month in Bangalore, but for the most time we are still operating as the same company. So part of the thing I discussed, Ola has given us the independence to operate in the way we used to, right? So we are still very much the same team. We have the same office. We still have the same resources that we were working with earlier. I spent some time in Bangalore because, obviously for me to learn from there and obviously to update them on what we are doing. Right. But that's few days a month. That's not much. And and for the most part, we are operating as we used to operate with a lot more intel. We are a lot more smarter, a lot more intelligent than what we used to be earlier.
Awesome. And just to wrap it up, I mean, where does what learnings do you feel as a company which is in this market, right? India as a market, a new mobility market. Do you see yourselves giving things to the rest of the world as well? I mean,
Yeah, definitely, right? Yeah. So I think people ask me, I think the last 100 years belonged to people who could build roads, right? So we were a world which was, there was a lot of capacity available, right? You had to build capacity. So people who were the countries or nations who were rich on resources were able to capitalize on that. I think we are running short of resources. Everyone knows that, right? There are lots of problems happening. And I think the next 100 years will belong to people who know how to make the best of resources. And who better than Indians to do that? We're already seeing that in transport, when our solutions are much better, far more effective, much more cheaper than what even global peers do. Right? So I think the next 100 years will belong to people who use resources the best. So we have this lane, right? We have a road, we have an SV road, we have a linking road, and you have to fit 1 million people on that road. Yeah. And I think India will do that. And once India does that, the rest of the world will also follow that, right? Because I think resources are going to be, they're not going to grow from here at the same pace as what we've seen in 100. So I think there's definitely a lot of room for Indians to actually do that. And you will hear a lot about, Sola has already been doing that a lot, and you will also hear a lot of Ridlr doing that in the future as well.
Awesome, Brijraj. Thank you so much. This was insightful and exciting to hear.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And it was great having you. We heard your Twitter handle already. So for everyone else, we also have a Slack channel. So if you join or if anyone wants to join, you can go to the website ivmpodcast.com/Shunya1 and request to join the Slack channel. And we'll send you an invite. And of course, wherever you're listening to this podcast, please go give us a rating. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever they are, ratings help. And let us know. Talk to us and let us know, or tweet to us or to Traffline or to Brijraj, and let us know how you thought about this episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anupam Gupta, B50 on Twitter, and listen into the Equity Sahiya podcast brought to you by Motilal Oswal Asset Management Company. The Equity Sahiya podcast offers deep investment insights into the potential of many sectors in India which are growing and have a lot to offer for your portfolio. New episodes out every Tuesday on the IVM Podcast app or any other app where you get your podcasts from.
Hi, I'm Satyajit.
Hi, I'm Racheta.
We are from the Open Library Project and we host a podcast called Paperback.
Paperback is a podcast where we engage with stalwarts and experts from various industries, suggesting non-fiction titles that contributed to their journey in a big way.
We've had guests like Anjali Raina, Dr. Marcus Rani, Dr. Swati Lodha, Ambi Parmeswaran, Apurva Damani, and many more on our show Paperback. Find new episodes every Wednesday on IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you listen to podcasts.